I'm looking through my family photos, and there was no pictures of my mother smiling. She was on every kind of medication, every kind of anti-depression medication. Everybody was miserable. I'm like, why don't I want to be in an organization where everybody's unhappy? And then I lost family members. My sister, as well as her children, were murdered, and my brother committed suicide. And these were all like really large wake-up calls for me. I mean, I literally had to hold my hand of my little nephew that was dying from being murdered as he took his last breath. It's very, very sad. Super sad. And I'm like, I don't want to, this next thing, like professionally, to learn this or figure this out. This is no sweat compared to what I've gone through in my life. It's totally foreign to a female Jehovah's Witness to say you need to have full control of your life. You know, we were never really taught how to manage money. So a lot of us are terrible money managers. You can reach financial goals if you're...
Hi everyone, I'm so excited to introduce to you Sarah Warren, who's a former Jehovah's Witness. Now, Sarah is the owner of Accounting Angels, which is a financial consulting and management firm. She's also a money mindset coach and an expert bookkeeper. In the short time that I've known Sarah, I've just been so amazed and blown away by her expertise and her story from tragedy to resilience. And today, Sarah is going to share how she overcame those personal tragedies to achieve success on her terms. And so my first question to Sarah is if she can share her personal experience living in a Jehovah's Witness household.
So I was born and raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and I was third generation. So my grandparents, my parents, and then myself. And they are and were very, very devout, super like strict about it. So, you know, some witnesses maybe a little bit more lax, but they were not. There was no conscience, like, yeah, we might, the publications say to do this and there's a conscience matter. There was no conscience. Very strict, very by the book witnesses. And so that's what I grew up with.
And so it sounds like you were born in, right? In the
Correct.
organization.
Born and raised in it, as was my mother, born and raised in it. Didn't know anything else.
Like what age range did you decide to leave the organization?
It was, I kind of did the slow fade kind of a thing. And I started my fade at about 35 and was pretty much out by like 40. So I didn't have like my first birthday party, like birthday cake until I was 40 years old.
Yeah, I always say I woke up in my 30s too. So I think there's something about the 30s, I think. So
yeah, you kind of get to know yourself a little bit, come into your own.
Yeah, and it sounds like you had a lot of experience and exposure in the organization you were born in, and then you were decades in it. So I'm wondering, how were the Jehovah's Witness doctrines or teachings like impact yourself and your potential, especially as a woman in the organization?
It was hard as a woman because we weren't allowed to have the same privileges, I guess you could say. You know, we were treated completely differently. And so it made it difficult because we were always like told we were less, you know, everything was always less, less, less. But professionally, I was a workhorse and I wasn't allowed to do anything within the organization. So it made it, you know, it was difficult, you know, because I had this like thing going on where professionally people would trust me with stuff. You know, I'd be trusted with all kind of money and everything professionally, but then I couldn't even count out the $147 in the cash box at the end of the night. And it was just like, all right, then they'd come to me struggling, you know, how do you fill this form out? And I'd do it, but I wasn't supposed to do it. I wasn't really allowed to do it. It always bugged me that I had to be told how to dress. And so I always had like an independent spirit. And that was one of the things I told my mother was, you know, thank you for letting me keep that independent spirit, because when you're trying to raise a Jehovah's Witness child, you want them to have that independent spirit, because it takes a lot of fortitude as a child to go to school, be the only kid at school, and not salute the flag, not celebrate birthdays, and be able to stand up for yourself, kind of a thing. And so I took that with me into my career. But there was a lot of, it was really hard because it was like a tug because I was good enough professionally, but I was never good enough, I was never good enough within the organization. Work was my escape. I went to school, I went to the witness school, so I never escaped at school. I hated school because I went to a school with all witnesses. And so, I was allowed to go to the meetings, go to school, which was pretty much a rerun of the meetings. And I was allowed to go to work. And so work became like my escape for everything.
You brought up a very good point about Jehovah's Witness children having that fortitude, being able to have that courage to not salute the flag. But at the same time, I can see where the conflict is because you're so ambitious and you're so courageous. But then why can't we have this same embodiment in the Kingdom Hall as a woman?
We're treated, I think there's a lot of sexual abuse scandals within the organization, which we have rolled out. So we know about how they've covered a lot of stuff up. They need women within the organization because that kind of stuff I think would be not covered up because we as women, that could be my child. This is what's going on, but it was all hidden. So a lot of if the women in the organization knew what the stuff was that was going on, where the whole organization is lopsided because there's no females in there
At the table.
Yeah, you don't even have you're not even offered any input into it, and so it's all lopsided and it's messed up because of that. And I always, I was never one of those really super gung ho witnesses because that bothered me.
Yeah.
I was really affected by end of the world teaching because that I believed. I believed the Armageddon, and it terrified me as a child. That really polarized me as a child, the cracking of the thunderstorms at night. I would just shiver in my bed. So I did believe that because they would make it seem so real, because my family was so gung-ho. They really focused on Armageddon, be good, otherwise, you're going to get destroyed. You're going to die, and that was really terrifying for me. And that took me a while to work through that because that was
You can imagine even after you left, right? Because if you believed in that doctrine of Armageddon, like even for me, I left during the pandemic. So leaving a doomsday cult, fear-mongering cult, and then experiencing the pandemic,
yeah,
it felt like doomsday. So I can totally relate. I can totally,
because you like kind of imagine what would it be like.
Yeah.
And you're like in the back of your mind thinking, wow, could that be what it is? Then you're like, no, it's not. But especially as a child, it was very terrifying for me, and that was
I can imagine.
traumatized me.
Yeah,
it really did.
So just knowing that that was something that was kind of real for you, what was the turning point for you that made you decide to leave the organization, even though knowing that Armageddon felt real to you?
Yeah. Well, I just looked at around in the organization, and like my mother, who was like my main anchor and, told me what I was supposed to do, she was so depressed and unhappy, like that I've ever known. And I remember I went through like my family photos, and I'm looking through my family photos, and, I had this big box of, decades of family photos. Everybody always like when they'd move, they dumped their photos on me. So I had everybody's pictures. And like, there was no pictures of my mother smiling. And I just came to the realization that I couldn't make her happy because I try to be a good child. So my mom was happy. And my whole life was like dedicated to like dealing with her drama, her depression. She was on every kind of medication, every kind of depression medication. And I just kind of realized I can't like fix her. She's damaged. I had then I lost family members. My sister, as well as her children, were murdered, and my brother committed suicide. And these were all like really large wake up calls for me. All of a sudden, half my family was gone, and everybody around me, the congregation, everybody's on like every kind of antidepressant. And I'm like, I just don't want to be like this because I could feel coming on me. And I'm like, I don't want to be depressed. I don't want it to affect my children. I think like suicide is almost like genetic because it runs through families. It becomes like part of your family tree because it almost becomes like normalized. And I did not want that to affect my children. I wanted my children to be happy and have a happy life. And so those are my motivations for the exit, is that I just wanted to have a happy life. And it was like, everybody was miserable. Everybody was miserable. And I'm like, why don't I want to be in an organization where everybody's unhappy? I think they're planning for the world to end. This is miserable.
It's just
It's just a
packaged.
miserable way to live your life.
Yeah, and the thing is, witnesses, they just package it so peacefully, like it's all unity. But really behind closed doors, and even like when I look back, I was like, that was the worst mental health I've ever been in. Like when I was pioneering, when I was 9 to 5 and then going to the meetings and then, just repeating that cycle over and over. It does so much to you internally and mentally. So I'm so sorry. The experiences that you had to go through to wake up and to see those red flags, those are very tragic
I have a lot of
experiences.
regrets. I wish that I could have done more for my siblings before all this bad stuff went down with them. But because I was the oldest, so I take on that role of fixing everybody. I have to fix myself. I have to fix myself.
And you were looking towards the future, but you were looking at your children's future too. Fixing
Yes.
yourself and like, yeah, I don't want this for me, and I surely do not want this for my children. I don't want my children to be having the superficial way of peaceful living, but really we are not in peace with ourselves.
I didn't want them all have all that emotional baggage, and I didn't want that depression to jump into them. I wanted to break that cycle because I could see the cycle with my grandparent. I could see it running through my family, and I'm like, I have to break this cycle. And it was the organization that was causing the cycle because it's just a depressing way
I
to
love how
live.
you put that though. I love how you said it was the organization that was causing the cycle, where a lot of people, they will blame themselves.
Yes.
It is me that is causing this cycle. And so therefore they will look at other ways, other external ways to, like they would either overdrink because our conscious is so sensitive. So they train us to have a very sensitive conscious, and they train us to always blame ourselves instead of the organization, because the organization is perfect. It's
Yeah.
imperfect people, but they're, that's a kind of thing that they push on us. So I'm very happy that you were able to really just look at it and say, no, it's the organization that's messing people up in my family. Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to try it and see. If I don't like it, I can go back, right? So I was like trying to think like logically, and then since I've left, oh my goodness, I'm just so happy.
Oh,
I'm just so happy now. I'm like,
you're
every day is
glowing. You're glowing.
every day isn't a picnic. We have, even when you leave the organization, you still have like bad days and stuff like that. But overall, oh my God, I'm so much happier. I can control the people that I'm going to be friends with. I don't have to be friends with these people that are depressing within the congregation. Uplifting conversations, uplifting positive relationships. And it's just like life is so like, whew.
It sounds like you were really able to take that unbelievable pain that you've experienced with your family and turn it into something positive. In terms of like transitioning from an ex-Jehovah's Witness to who you are right now, how were you able to do that? Did you have any obstacles? How were you able to overcome them?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have obstacles. It's hard, giving up everything that you've had your whole entire life. I had to figure out a way I kind of did the slow fade. It kind of happened. I don't know if it was on purpose, but it just kind of slowly, naturally happened. You try to find some friends that are not Jehovah's Witnesses so that you at least have, feel like you have a little bit of friendship with somebody else. Um, it was difficult. I tried to remain optimistic. So even like I lost a lot of my family died. I tried to rally the strength from them, I think, because that I'm not dead. I'm alive. I wasn't murdered. I wasn't killed. I'm here. And that hasn't happened to me. That's like the worst. And I got through that tearing emotional pain. So it's like, okay, this next thing, like professionally, I have to learn this, whatever it is, I have to learn this or figure this out this is no sweat compared to what I've gone through in my life. So I tried to use it as a stepping stool to get, like to be less afraid for
I love
things. I used it to like rally strength. And I always tried to be an optimistic person, whatever I'm looking at. So if I'm looking at financials with a client, I'll be like, okay, these are the good things you're doing right. These are the things that are great for you. And then we can talk about the not so great things. But I always try to like lead with an optimistic mindset. And I've trained that into myself. And my husband is very good because he has a very similar mindset. So we're aligned. And so sometimes I'm like, my computer isn't working right and I'm angry and complaining and I'm like, nothing's working right today. And he'll be like, keep talking like that and it won't work right today. So then he'll bring me back in line. But how you choose to think about things and how you choose to focus on things is so important to get you past. And I can't tell what you should do, but I can just tell you what I did is that I tried to use it as a strength. Okay, this was bad. I got through it. I can get through the next thing now. I got through that. This is no big deal compared to that. And that's kind of what I did anyway.
No, I think just having that frame of mind or learning how to reframe things like that, like we've been through the worst. Like it's only uphill from here.
Yeah, and you
And
have a little, goes, but overall you're working your way up, becoming a better person, becoming smarter, every day a little bit smarter, figuring things out.
yeah, and I think that's such a great mindset to always cultivate. Sometimes I even go back like to that experience leaving and said, every time I have a challenge that comes up, I'm like, well, I know I've done the worst. I know I've been through really bad stuff.
Yeah, you're
And
all alone, you don't have
you're
anybody,
able
and
to
it's just
navigate
you.
it. Yeah.
You can know, like, you learn, like, I can trust me. I got me, you know. So, which is that you're going to be with yourself the rest of your life. You're learning to learn to trust yourself because
Yeah.
you're going to be your own best friend, hopefully, the rest of your life, right?
Yeah. 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 It's definitely something that even understanding that, like we have to learn how to support ourselves personally and professionally. We're not taught that in the organization, but especially I think, well, I think in general, but I almost feel like for women, it's very important to learn how to trust themselves and to make decisions because in the headship arrangement, we were not really able to make those
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah.
So it's like
You know,
another
it's
layer.
it's totally foreign to a female Jehovah's Witness to say you need to have full control of your life. They wouldn't even know what that would look like. And so to say, like, now in my life, I have full control of my life, how do you even get there? Like, how do you, but if you don't have control over you, you don't have control over anything. So then you're just like a boat, just bobbing around wherever the current takes you. So if you can gather that full control of your life, then you can take it where you want it to go. But those were never things that we were taught or a concept that was even rolled out to us, or even, it wasn't even an option.
Yeah,
Like,
being a leader, a woman leader, or making your own decisions. Like if you can't even make your own decisions in the organization, how is it even for you? How is it even possible for you to be a woman leader or to own your own business and to make decisions? Like you said, if you know how to control, if it starts with you, well then if you're solid with you, then everything else would kind of trickle down. It's like a ripple effect. Then everything else will kind of run a little bit more smoother in your business. Knowing who you are, knowing like you said too, even trusting you, trusting yourself.
yeah, I got me.
It's very, very, very important. Yeah, to learn how to navigate those unforeseen obstacles too. Do you have any advice that you would give to other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, especially women who are really looking to take control of their lives and pursue their dreams? Like what you
So
dropped a
I
lot
would
of
say,
gems, but yeah.
like, I'd say work hard at it daily because you're going to have to make a shift. So it's going to take like daily shifting to shift. Identifying it, of course, is the biggest thing. What are your faults that you have? So identify some of your faults, things that you don't really like about yourself, things that you want to improve about yourself, because you got to be honest with yourself. There's things that every day I don't like about myself, and it takes a smart person to go like to even see them. And sometimes your spouse, like he'll tell me what I need to work on sometimes, and I'm like, okay, thank you. And we vice versa that, we'll like be like, I don't like that, But reading is really good. I analyzing, like one of the things that happened to me was that I was working for other people and I could just see how much they were making off of my back. And so be aware of, what is your worth, and don't be shy about asking for what you are worth, whether it's more money, more respect, better title. Um, and then also it's, encourage others to get involved in helping others. So if you've gotten over a little hump, help somebody else get up over that hump, because it helps you to get to the next level. People that are coaches help other people. Well, you got to be on your game to help somebody else. So it helps both people. So, step in and help somebody else. We're like a group. So help, collaborate with others, ask questions, encourage others. But I think that for me, it was reading and figuring out what problems I really wanted to work on within myself, whether it was education, skills, feeling like I was, I had like imposter syndrome where I felt like, oh, my education isn't enough. I always made like excuses why I couldn't do stuff. So you got to kind of be leveling with yourself and kind of drag yourself along, make a list. I'm a list person, I'm kind of more of a, robot type mentally, I think, but my lists and my books, I have like a certain time of the day where I wake up in the morning and I'm very alert in the morning. So I read, and that's my time to work on me, whatever it is that I'm personally trying to work on. So right now I'm working how to build a cohesive team, because my team has gotten larger. So I'm working on those skills to keep a team happy so that I can keep a team going long term so I don't have turnover and things like that. But it's all reading. It's all just reading or listening. If you don't enjoy reading, then listen, go on, get the audiobooks and just listen to them over and over again. But I try to immerse myself in whatever that next thing is that I need to learn.
Yeah, you have this thing about you, like you're just a lifelong learner to me, and you're just continually. Now we have the ability to be open-minded, right? And to really expand our mind to more resources. And that was something that I'm always trying to take advantage of. It's like, yay, I can really expand my mind, expand my heart to the world, right?
Isn't
And to
it
give.
wonderful? We can
Beautiful.
it's wonderful. I mean, I still I think I'm a little bit blocked that I still won't go on like, totally apostate websites and stuff, because I feel like that's a little bit, I don't want to go on the organization's website because they have their own propaganda, and I don't go over here too much. I that's just because I don't, well, because a lot of it is negative and I don't really want to like focus on the negative stuff. I want to plow my own course forward positively. But, if that's what floats your boat, go right ahead. You have free to do research, anything that you want, listen to, talk about, believe. You can believe whatever it is. You have the freedom to do that. Let your mind figure out what it wants, what it believes. Reason on it. You don't have somebody trying to like force it down your throat. You get to control what goes between your ears. And it's wonderful. I love it.
It is a wonderful gift that we can always just, now we have the ability to really expand on the gifts that we have. So I got from you, we have to learn how to be vulnerable and be honest with ourselves, right? To grow. I also got that it's okay to ask people how much, I think it's how much are they making or something like that, or you knew you were doing a lot of the work, and then I think you were analyzing.
So we have coaches for this and that. If I'm going to go get a roof put on my house, I'm going to call a roofer. I'm not going to try to do it myself. But somehow with money, people think that it's this taboo subject to talk about. We don't talk about how much money we make. We don't, we can't discuss it. That's not polite conversation. And I am like, I don't believe in that. I think that you got to learn, we were never really taught how to manage money. So a lot of us are terrible money managers. And I think that you can reach financial goals if you're watching your money. And so if you have questions about money, budgets, any of that stuff, just, reach out to me because I am like here to assist and help, give you my thoughts. And it might be a little bit different than what you've thought of, give you like a different insight, or maybe you're on the right track and I just say, yeah, but it sounds good. But I believe that it's polite to talk about money. It's polite to talk about financial goals and what are our financial goals, because if we don't have that financial goal, how are we going to make it? Put that picture of the boat that you want to buy on your refrigerator so that you see it every single time you open that refrigerator door. And there's nothing wrong with that, having your boat. Doesn't mean that you're materialistic or any of those things. Those are all tools to motivate you that you're going to enjoy once you get it. But there's nothing wrong with getting some help, opening up your financials and saying, I'm in trouble, I need help. You'd call the roofer, right? Roof was leaking, you'd call the roofer. Nothing wrong with getting help financially, learning the skills financially. A lot of times I'll talk to people that they have these financial goals and I'll kind of add it up and they think that they need to make $1 million. And I'm like, to reach these financial goals, you don't need $1 million. Realistically, most people have very just basic financial goals that are like totally achievable. I don't want to be a billionaire. I don't want to fly to the moon. Those aren't my financial goals. My financial goals are within reason to be, I want to be able to travel, be happy financially, have some savings and be secure. That doesn't a lot of times take a lot of money if you budget correctly. So, working on budgeting is really valuable, learning how, because I think that if you budget right, you can even get by with less money. But if
Wow.
if you budget badly, you need more money. I was
Yeah.
just talking to somebody and they made like $600,000 a year and they're in debt. And I was just like, you make $600,000 a year. How can you be in debt? But it was just from, poor financial management.
Yeah.
Doesn't
So
matter how much money you're making.
yeah, it's not how much you make, it's how you manage. So I have a
Most
question
of the
that
time. I mean, if you're
yeah.
making nothing, most of the time.
So because like you mentioned that it is taboo, like people don't want to talk about how much, like what was their raise, even in corporate, when I was in corporate and
Mhm.
things like that.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily like a JW thing, but the JW thing, like I think they do double down on them, on they want you to have like I feel like they've instilled money phobia onto us because of the labels and all of that. So I'm just wondering, um, did that come natural for you though? Like just having a healthy, or your relationship with money just seems to be different.
I think it did come naturally to a certain extent. My mom, well, I think that one of the things within the organization is that there's some good things that we had, was that we didn't have very much money, so we did have to learn kind of how to budget it well. So she wanted to feed her children, she had to figure out how to make it stretch, right? So she was good at budgeting. Jehovah's Witnesses are really good about like figuring out the side hustle. And a lot of side hustles can be turned into businesses because they wanted part-time, flexible type of work, it's a good thing. You just want to make sure that you're compensated for it. And who doesn't want flexible work that they can do, that they can make good money at and have that flexibility of a life? So those were all like really good things. So I'm an optimist. So I focused on those things, focused on figuring out how to make money stretch, figuring out how to make money in unique ways, which now I see like tons of different businesses. People can make money in all kind of weird ways. But I think I always liked money and numbers because it's always like 2 and 2 is always 4. I don't have to consult with the watchtower. It's always going to be 4. So it never lied to me. It never flip-flopped. It never changed. So it was like that constant. I can go like to the antique store now and pull like an old book from like open it up and where they were doing accounting and bookkeeping, and I can look at it and understand what was going on with that particular business with a handwritten, in pencil ledger book. And so I just liked the consistency of it, because once you get those skills, it can carry you through life. Um, as a Jehovah's Witness, I was always very honest. We're honest people. And so I had an honest look. So people trusted me with their money because they knew I wasn't going to steal from them. So that was an asset. That was something positive that organization, I think, at least instilled in me, was that I was trustworthy with it. So that worked to my advantage. And even now, I'll get on a call with somebody and they just open up their life to me. Here's what I have in the bank. Here's all that, because they trust me that I'm not going to go blab it to everybody else. Or, sometimes they'll give me access to stuff. And I'm like, I can't believe they're giving me, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to steal anything or anything like that. And so that was something that the organization that they, that was there. So I just, you pick and choose those positive little pieces that you can pull together to make a new life.
Yeah, and
I do think it had a little bit, had a little bit of natural. My mom was pretty good with money. And so she did like teach me about like when they were buying. And a lot of the time I was very much my mom's like only friend and confidant. And so, she's buying in a house. And so I learned about like points and interest rates very at a young age because she would talk to me and share those things with me. So I understood them probably better than most at a young age. I knew how much my mom made. I always had a visibility of it as a child.
and that's so good because it was kind of like visible to you, and you were engaging with money talk to your mom, and you were kind of helping her and all of that. You view money as a tool. Like you didn't have like a scarcity mindset. You kind of just, money is what it is. It's a tool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been working since I was 13, saving since I was 13. Um, I was talking to my husband about this yesterday. We used to go to the store and it had like all this housewares. It was called, I think, Best Products back in the day. And I remember when I was 13, I got my first job. I would do like house cleaning and stuff. And I went over to the Best Products and I put on layaway my dishes. At 13, I put my layaway my dishes that I was going to have when I moved out when I turned 18. And I had those. Then I got them paid off on my layaway, put them up in the garage, the rafters of the garage, so that I could have all of my dishes and everything bought by the time I turned 18. So I think a lot of it was just ingrained in me to kind of be a little bit of a planner and a plotter when it came to money stuff, and it was, just miserable at home. So I wanted to be prepared. I want to have dishes when I move out. I got to eat, right?
Yeah, yeah, but a lot of that was just so resourceful. Your upbringing definitely empowered you throughout your journey when you left the organization.
Certain things that were like, I'm so thankful that I had, because I had to be an independent in a lot of ways, so there was a lot of areas where I wasn't an independent thinker, but there's a lot of areas that you have to be an independent thinker. And so that's what you glom onto, those areas, and like get rid of the stuff where you're not, forget about how women are treated, like that was a bunch of bullshit, how women are treated. But I had to learn to not salute the flag. That took inner strength. Okay, I'm going to use that part of the inner strength to propel me forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me it was just being. I couldn't have made it if I wasn't optimistic. I couldn't
Mm.
have made. I would have fallen into like a deep,
Mm.
deep depression. And so I can see how it does that to people, because I mean I could see it like happening to me. And I'm like, I can't be like, I can't fall into a deep depression because I'll be, like, it has happened to my family. But I can see how it happens that, there's so many that commit suicide, that become like self-destructive, those things because they're just depressed, It's very, very sad. Super sad. And I'm like, I don't want to end up like that. I've got to figure out, okay, what can I take from this to use as a building block to take me where I want to go?
Incredible. Yeah. I have one more question for you, Sarah. So, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience that might inspire them or help them on their journey? Could be personal, could be professional.
Well, I kind of already touched on reading. I think reading is really good. Collaborating with others, that are within that have kind of made it out, helping others, because if you're helping others, you're helping yourself a little bit. So whatever, little ways in which you can even help others is good. Researching things, I had to like learn about, I would read court cases, like, and it just kind of, after reading all the court cases, it was like this, so I solidified within myself, like, I don't believe this stuff. And this is pretty wicked, kind of pretty bad stuff. When you read those court cases, you're like, this is really, really bad. But just reading, I think reading, like, I know that Stephen Hassan book where he spells out the bite model, that was really important for me, because to me, to determine like when somebody is mind controlling me, because I didn't want to fall for it again. So reading that and learning, like, these are the list, the warning sign lists, that was really eye-opening for me. So for me, I think that reading I couldn't have done it without reading. And it could be on financial topics, mindset topics, learning how people mind control you topics. But I had to learn, like, what the hell happened to me, so that I could figure out, because I don't want it to happen again. I didn't want it to, I didn't want to fall into another cult or something like that. I had to figure out what the problem was so I could make sure I didn't recreate it. So lifetime learning, I guess, would be my,
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
I
I
could only
love
say
that.
one thing. Yeah.
Life, yeah. So having that open mind and just the vulnerability, just knowing, I think sometimes too, I think you have to be ready for what you're reading, because it will, like you said, the court cases and all of that. You have
That
to
was
be,
like,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, yeah. You have to make sure that you're going to be emotionally and mentally ready as much as you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there is, I learned about like the stages of grief, because you do grieve through this
Hmm.
process, and being angry is one of the stages, but you don't park it there.
Yes, you don't stay there. Correct.
You don't stay there. You move to the next stage. And there's things that I will probably always be angry about, like, little children getting abused. That's always going to anger me. But that doesn't allow it to fester. I got to move it forward. You got to move it past that, where you're not just angry all the time. And that, it's normal. I mean, it's worth being angry about, but just don't take up a residence with it to where it's affecting your life. You're moving forward life. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
bad, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let it go on around me. I'm going to speak out when it comes up in conversation. I'm going to speak out against it, but I can't let it ruin my life, kind of a
Or
thing.
let it control you instead of, yeah, like you have to
Yeah.
just, yeah, at some point, of course, it's very valid to grieve and to feel those emotions, because we are human beings, but at the same
Mhm.
time, we can't allow a lot of that heaviness to really keep us
If
from
I
moving forward.
If I dwelled in my past, I'd never get out. And I literally had to hold my hand of my little nephew that was dying from being murdered as he took his last breath. And if I dwelled on that, I'd just be crying all day long. You have to you have to it made me stronger. It's not going to happen, around me again. It's not going to be recycled through my family. This is not going to happen again. Um, how can I use this to propel me to have a happy life? Because if you're just constantly looking back, it's polarizing. The stuff that happened to me, all that stuff, but that's not where I want to focus.
Ooh.
Terrible things, terrible, but I'm strong. It made me strong. It made me resilient, and I am happy that I'm a strong now.
And you're so loving too. Like you have a very big heart, and it's just like you've been through a lot, but it's like, yeah, just the positive transformation. It's not easy, but in the process, you became more of a loving person and a giver.
Yes, you have to be, but you want to give to those people that are worth it, because for a lot of years I was giving to my mother, who would just suck it all away, to where I was almost like her existence or whatever. So you have to be balanced about it.
Mhm.
Um, to where I'm not allowing people to use me. So I'm loving, I'm kind, I'm compassionate against people, but I don't want to, you don't want to go the other end where you're,
Oh yeah,
having people suck the life out of you either, because we're kind-hearted. We are.
we are.
And people, worldly people, as they call them, some of those will glom onto you. And so then you
Mm-hmm.
end up with people that are, and I've seen it happen where they end up with friendships that their people are like attached to them. So
Yeah.
I'm nice, and I want to try to help others to become better themselves, to become
But
that strong person
yeah,
themselves.
and set healthy boundaries. Be an empowered woman,
Absolutely.
be strong, be resilient, but also learn. And I think setting healthy boundaries is part of growth and
Yes.
evolution.
I want to help others, but I don't want to do it at my expense. Because like,
The
there's not enough money. I don't have enough money in the world to help everybody.
Yeah, and the
I,
term you reminded me of the term that witnesses use, self-sacrifice. They love self-sacrifice to the point where it takes a toll on their mental health.
yes.
Yeah. So
Like, it's probably been used before when you go on the airplane, the example where you put your own mask on first and then you help the person next to you. So you gotta put your own mask on first, make sure you're good, and then you help others where you can.
yeah,
Because it's good to help others. It makes you, it solidifies you when you're helping somebody else, but you can't do it at your expense.
absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Don't pour from a empty cup. So
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of analogies for it. Yeah, but
exactly.
yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're givers. I'm a pleaser,
Mhm.
and I'm a giver. And so I do have to be a little bit careful of that, because I can turn into a workaholic because people want more and more and more from me. So I have to set boundaries for it. This is when my calendar is open. Don't message me on the weekends, because I'll take them. I'll take the calls, and I'll work into the evenings if people need it, because I do have that. I want to be helpful to people.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We also love to serve, yeah, as human beings, but
Yes, yes, that's part of like who I am.
yeah,
But I
and
have
it
to
makes us
I do.
feel good too. Like, it makes us feel good to serve. But yeah, to your point, we have to be, structured and set boundaries, and yeah, it's just healthy. We are in a very healthier and happier space, mentally, emotionally, professionally.
And
So
that's where, like, I think as females, tend to be more givers, and we give a little bit too much sometimes. So you gotta kind of figure out that happy medium where you are giving, but then, you don't give that little bit, too much, where it becomes, you just become frazzled. And so I'm trying to, like, that's what I'm trying to do, is kind of set some boundaries for myself, that you can't work all the time. I don't have, like, some of my personal goals are, I want to try to have more hobbies, because I don't have any hobbies. I'm very lopsided, very, like, I'm a one trick pony is what I say. I work, and my husband will say, your hobby is working, and he plays guitar and, does all this other stuff. And I'm like, I just work. But I do enjoy my team. I enjoy the people that I work with. I enjoy the clients that I work with. So love it.
yeah,
So they say, when you do something that you love, you never work a day in
that's
your
so
life.
true. Yeah.
And I feel like that's where I'm at least right now in my life, where I'm enjoying it. And when I don't, then I just, I pivot, right?
Hmm.
So like right now, I feel like, okay, I'm probably working too much, but I can always back it off later, right?
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for this opportunity. I really appreciate all your time and have so much respect for your expertise, your
Yeah.
knowledge. Your story of resilience is just so remarkable. It's incredible. It's so empowering, and I know it will resonate with so many people. And so
Yeah.
I'm so thankful to have known you, even though we have just kind of known each other. But I just feel like you're just such a very resilient and incredible and empowered woman. And thank you for being an example for
You're
me and
welcome.
so
If
many.
anybody needs any help with anything, message me. If you need help with anything, you're thinking about, expanding your business, anything like that, you just want to have like a second set of eyes or a second opinion on something, I'm totally here. I want to help.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. We are so
Thank you.
happy and we're glad to have this interview with you. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
So always remember, my friends, to own your story, own your power.